We're living in a world of international lawlessness. The very people that keep talking about the rules-based order are in fact fomenting disorder everywhere in the world and the shredding of any rules that once existed. This week, for example, 100 countries are gathering in Lima, in Peru, to plan the future of Venezuela. Although, of course, Venezuela has not been invited. On that basis, Russia and others are not going to the conference. Let me just run that past you again. 100 countries are meeting in Peru to decide what should happen in Venezuela, with Venezuela not present, not even invited. I'm so old. I remember when the principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of other sovereign states, members of the United Nations, was absolute. Indeed, it was the entire basis for international law, until a man called Tony Blair and Bill Clinton, but mainly Tony Blair, ripped up those principles and invented new ones, which have no legal force or legitimacy, but appear to be the way in which the world is developing. Now, the United States is, of course, the driving force behind this conference in Lima. The United States, where children and babies and women and men are lying dead on the floor of shopping malls because 21-year-old right-wing nutcases are able to go in and buy high-velocity automatic assault rifles and then carry them in to public places and massacre people in two separate massacres in less than 24 hours in Texas and in Ohio. I mean this most sincerely to the American people. Shouldn't you be staying at home and deciding on the future of your own country instead of roaming around the world, interfering in the internal affairs of others? Venezuela already has a government recognized by the United Nations and by a clear majority of the countries of the world. As a sovereign state, it has sovereign wealth invested, stored in various places in the world. What's happening? Other sovereign governments, other members of the United Nations, are literally stealing Venezuela's gold and money and giving it to a man on the street who appointed himself as the so-called president of Venezuela. His name is Juan Guaido, I think, though my memory escapes me to some extent. He is a man who didn't even stand for election to be the president of Venezuela. Russia takes the view, and I commend them for it, that as long as Venezuela has a government, has a president, has a state, which is a member state of the United Nations, other countries should butt out and stay out of Venezuela's internal affairs. And I say to many of the countries gathering in Lima, one day it will be your turn. There'll be people gathering like vultures somewhere to decide on your future. Just think about that.